with, and
What?
you won't have to run the risk of getting content violation strikes against you.
Go on.
The Wizard of Oz series.
Okay.
Plus, I love. Have I told you? You've read my article. I love The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
public domain. Dorothy's a lesbian. She dates transgender
Absolutely.
princess. Like, the princess is transgender. Like, and people argue this not what's really going on. And she's fucking.
Well, people still try to argue a lot of historical transgender just figures in actual history. It's just like, no, they were just doing it because it would be better to be a man socially. And it's like, well, no, like, you can see even in their private life, like, they definitely wanted to be seen as a man or a woman. Like, it's really prevalent for a long time, and nobody wants to believe it because they want to act like it's a new thing. Because if it's a thing that's been happening throughout history like it has been, then it's legitimized. Ugh.
What's the worst thing I have to do? Monitoring system. Where the fuck is that?
But yeah, you were saying with Billy West with Zoidberg.
I could never do Zoidberg. It's too amazing.
Well, he's broken it down. It's a combination of, because what he'll do, and like a lot of voice actors will do, is they're just obsessed with television and radio and everything, and they'll just kind of like remember like voices from like everywhere, and they'll just pick obscure actors and kind of mush them together. Billy West does that a lot. But what he said is, it's a combination of Lou Jacoby, who was a vaudevillian Yiddish actor. He used the marble mouth like that. And then
I could pull the marble.
And then Georgie Jessel, who actually did some stuff with not Dean Martin, who's the Jack Parr, I think. Fuck, I can't remember. I actually heard him in a radio play recently. But Georgie Jessel, who was also part of that, and he's like, here's the marble mouth too. And it's just like taking like elements of that and just like mixing it together and like kind of mushing it, and like he's got all the weird like meat hanging on his face and how it kind of get in the way like that, and it's just like another Zoidberg.
But like he doesn't. Like,
John Lady, bring me a sandwich from the dumpster. Leave the maggots on it. Like, that's the best I can do. If it's something I'd suggest watching, and I suggest this to everybody, because it's one of my favorite just pieces of media, is I Know That Voice. It's a documentary that John DiMaggio, who played Bender and Jake the dog.
John DiMaggio.
Yeah. I'm just like, he
don't talk down to me.
He just
John
realized
DiMaggio.
like people like recognize voice, like they recognize voices and they recognize all this shit and they care and they want to learn more about it. So he knows all these people in voiceover. So he just like with like a film crew and a producer, just like interviewed people and made a documentary about voiceover, and it's amazing. It's like dozens, maybe even like 100 voice actors just like going over all of their approaches to shit, and like all of the shit in there is amazing. You've probably seen a clip going around of fucking Bob Bergen, I think, the guy who's Porky Pig, and he explains how he broke down Porky Pig's mannerisms, where it's like
mannerisms.
What did I say?
Mannerisms.
Oh well, shit. It's the enya. But it's like his speech mannerisms of just like Porky Pig is if you were gonna take something like the boy sat in the chair next to the desk. He's like, well, okay, what you do is you take the first syllable and you go ebbe boy, like literally those syllables, like ebbe boy, and then you push it on the second one, ebbe boy, and then you do that, and then you do it for everything. So it's like ebbe boy, the ebbe boy sat in the chair next to the desk. So that's how Porky Pig talks. Then you do it fluently without fucking up in a perfect Porky Pig impression, and that's how you fucking do Porky Pig.
Did you know he did Porky Pig as a way to make fun of, or Porky Pig was designed to make fun of one of the guys they worked with.
Really?
Yeah, he was a parody of one of their coworkers. And Bugs Bunny got his name because there was a guy they worked with named Bugs, or Bug, and he designed this rabbit, or requested it, or something to that effect.
Right.
And so they wrote, or had the design out, and it said, "This is Bugs's bunny," or Bugs Bunny, because dude's name was Bug. So it's B-U-G apostrophe S.
Right.
But the apostrophe just didn't come through all that well in the sketches, so he became Bugs Bunny.
Ah, okay. That's another great... They, like, talk about Bugs Bunny in that... And they talk a lot about Mel Blanc, because Mel Blanc is just the high watermark for everything. Like, they go off about him for a long time. In fact, Mel Blanc... The Man of a Thousand Voices is another documentary that's fully about him, and that's amazing to watch too. But I know that voice is great to watch, and you get to see like June Foray talking in there, and it broke my heart when she died recently. Like, she was 99. Rocky the Flying Squirrel.
That's right.
And like Natasha, Boris and Natasha, and Witch Hazel, and Granny, and talking Tina from Twilight Zone. The fucking talking doll. And she was actually... They got her for that because she was Chatty Cathy, the doll that was a parody of. She was the voice of that doll, too.
You know who else was really good at getting voice actors to parody themselves?
Oh, who?
Family Guy.
Yeah. Yeah, them and Robot Chicken was able to get decent stuff. One of the weird ones was they got Bill Farmer, who plays Goofy, to be Bugs Bunny in their like 8 Mile Looney Tunes crossover, which was really bizarre like choice on that, but he did it pretty decently. But yeah, with Bugs Bunny, they like talk about that voice and how it's like, it's interesting because like all of the elements of it are really unpleasant. Like, it's really nasal and New Yorky and like really something you wouldn't expect to be that good.
What's up, Mac?
But it's like, he just makes it so timeless and endearing, and like...
Endear?
Yeah?
Dear?
Oh yes.
Kill my passenger.
Kill him.
Okay.
And they're just him like talking about like, you know, it's like I couldn't decide if he was like Brooklyn or the Bronx, so I kind of put them together. That's my best Bugs Bunny. I don't really do impressions very much, but it's crazy to hear him talk about it. And another thing they say is Hank Azaria, who's like most of the characters on. Well, there's like 5 regular Simpsons, so he's like Moe and Apu and all that.
He was also Bud Buchwald in Border Towns.
Border Towns?
A short-lived 1-season show that was on not long ago on Fox. Just 2 years, maybe.
Okay.
It's on Hulu.
Sure.
Worth looking at once, but don't binge watch it.
Okay, so it's worth like at least seeing an episode or two, but don't plan to get invested.
No, get invested. Just don't binge watch it.
Okay.
We watched it as it aired. It's been within 3 years that the show was on the air. We watched it when it originally aired, weekly.
Sure.
And it was great. I rewatched it, binged it. It was awful. And it was just a year apart. Like, that was the thing.
Huh.
Binging it was fucking terrible.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just something about the fact that it was all of it at once. Like, in little bite-sized chunks, it was fine. But in one big video, it was awful.
Okay. You know, they say there's like a rule like that with Watchmen, the comic, which is if you find Watchmen, even if you find it in the graphic novel form, you have to read only 1 issue a day, at the very least a day apart, to give yourself that breathing room of like the month apart that they originally came out in. And that's the way to get the full effect of those comics.
Never heard that about Watchmen.
I believe it was in the foreword for the trade paperback for it.
I meant to do that.
Yeah, it was totally intentional. What are you talking
It
about?
was strategic. Strategic ass kicking.
Yeah, self-ass kicking.
I wanted people to know that I'm fucking crazy.
Fucking bananas. Goddamn banana sandwiches.
You wanna fuck with me, I'll fuck you up.
But yeah, Hank Azaria, what he pointed out is something that most people don't realize unless they are a voice actor. Is there's a cartoon where Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are in it. And it's one of the duck season, rabbit season. In fact, that might even be the one that the name of the short. But what happens is, at one point, Bugs and Daffy go off scene, and they come back dressed as the other one, and Mel then plays Daffy Duck doing an impression of Bugs Bunny, and vice versa, and they sound totally unique. And Hank Azaria is like, yeah, we actually sat down once after a recording session and tried to do something like that. Like, I tried to do Apu doing Mo and Mo doing Apu, but they ended up just sounding like kind of half and half, and they wore the same voice. Being able to do that in a unique way, to be so inside of each character individually as different people, that they can make fun of each other and sound completely different because they are different people, is like, the dedication of that is absurd and inspiring. I can't even imagine, like, Mel Blanc. And there wasn't like any kind of like school of thought on this. He was like the like originator of most of our sensibilities when it comes to character voice acting. Like, it really all started with him. But like, he was what made it so that voice actors could be credited.
Career, yeah.
Yeah, like, without him, like, before that, they didn't credit people when they did voiceover. And it was to preserve, quote-unquote, the magic, but it was really, so that they didn't have to pay them as much. And rather than take a raise, decided he just wanted to be credited. So he was the first person where they started to say, and featuring Mel Blanc as these characters. And that was a massive step forward in entertainment in general, let alone voiceover. And it's... God damn, he's just the greatest. And it sucks that he's gone. And now June Foray's gone too. And that sucks. But like, she's in there and you get to hear her doing Rocky and stuff, and that to me was the moment, like, watching the trailer for that, where she comes in and does Rocky for a second. It's like, okay, I have to watch this now. I don't care how much. This could be $1,000. I will go bankrupt to see this fucking movie if I have to. And thankfully it was on iTunes for like $10. And it was on Netflix for quite a while too. But it's well worth every penny to see I Know That Voice, because it's just shit, like, stuff like that on and on and on. And it's just like, oh god, so many amazing things in that. And it could have been a better presentation. Like, there are parts, like, as a documentary, it definitely it could have been stronger, but it's just the content itself is fantastic. Like, another great part is like James Arnold Taylor, who was Johnny Test, and he was Tidus in Final Fantasy X, but he's also Fred Flintstone. Like, he is the current official Fred Flintstone, and he talked about when he got the role and how, like, they were like, how he got the role and how they constructed it, and how, like, he went in there and he's a tiny guy. He's like 5'0" and really skinny, and they like literally, like, they looked over him to see if there was another voice actor there, and the actual voice of Fred Flintstone was there, and he's just like, don't, just listen. And he just explained how, like, he took, like, Jackie fucking, like, yeah, like the sort of Jackie Gleason sound where it was really smooth, and then like Henry Corden, he was very and like